Go ahead.
All right, good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October 13th, 2020 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. Commissioners are appointed by the Select Board in order to implement the rules and regulations of the State Wetlands Protection Act and the Milton Town bylaw governing the wetlands as well. As a matter of formality, we ask that each person who speaks, and we encourage everyone to speak and ask questions, that you identify yourself so that we have a record for the open meeting law. And then as a second matter of formality, we always introduce ourselves. My name is John Kiernan. Jerry, I'm just looking in order there. Well, Steve, you're next, I guess.
I'm Steve Ivas, Conservation Agent.
Gary Burke.
Penelope, can you help me, please? How do I get it so that it's showing me?
Hans Vanlingen.
And Wendy Garpo.
All right, great.
Oh, Wendy. Oh, look at that background.
I know. It's the virtual thing.
All right, and we'll proceed. Hopefully that Ingrid will be able to join us, but if not, we have our quorum, so we're ready to proceed. And just as a matter of courtesy, and I think it's efficiency as well, we're going to take something out of order. Number 8 on tonight's agenda is the superseding order of conditions at 1439 Brush Hill Road. And it's my understanding that this is simply informational and that no vote is going to be required, so that I don't think there'll be extensive discussion. Steve, do you want to give an update on that? I mean, I can do it, but you might be.
Very briefly, the superseding order of conditions came back from DEP, and the Murphys, the applicants, are okay with the conditions that DEP put on. That's the short version. If you want to go longer, that's fine.
No, that's true, but I think it's important also to note that essentially DEP approved the order that we issued.
Yes.
The same terms and conditions that, and this has to do, for the public's benefit, this has to do with repaving Avenue A, which is the means of egress to the Murphys residence. The other issue that came up and was a concern of the neighbors, and an appropriate one, and that is that they were concerned that the timing of the project be such that the salamanders are safe during their migratory transition across Hemingway Drive and Avenue A, as they do typically in the March to April timeframe. But the Murphys responded immediately and said that their plan was to start construction immediately. And this is the month of October, so that they promised to be sensitive to no construction during that March and April timeframe where the salamanders do migrate. So we thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, for doing that. Yes. And the last aspect of this, I think, is that it will be a pre-construction meeting with a representative of DEP. The Conservation Commission agent will be there. This is next Monday to meet with the Murphys, any neighbors that want to be there, and the contractor to make sure everything goes well. And as part of the superseding order, there was a provision that there be an environmental monitor, and that environmental monitor at the behest of the DEP will be Jim Burke. And I think that's it. And does anybody have any questions or want to add any other provisions that are governing the work? Hearing none, Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, Arthur, Susan, do you have anything to add?
One of the things we were asked to remove the swaddles that were put in there earlier when we thought we were going to be paving last year. So we've already had them removed. So
we're all set to go. The water.
Perfect. All right. Well, we wish you well, and I think you can look forward to a meeting, and Steve Ivas will be present on behalf of the Conservation Commission next Monday.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Stay well.
Steve. Okay. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Going back to number 1 on the agenda tonight is the informational. This is the Milton Conservation design proposal. And Arthur Doyle, I think you're the appropriate person to lead the charge in this and explain where we are and what you have done. Really, we'll claim credit for it, Arthur, but I think this is 100% your work, for which we thank you.
Well, it's a collegial enterprise, and I just want to report back to the Conservation Commission that at its most recent meeting, the Select Board unanimously approved the Milton Conservation Commission signed proposal. So we are all set to get underway and reach out with some possible providers of or manufacturers of signs that meet the specifications and the design that we had previously approved as well. I've started that process, and I'll be coordinating with Steve so that we can put together some possible alternatives, bring them back to the commission, and hopefully come spring, we will have a number of signs in place. An early estimate, just reviewing the maps, is that we could probably use approximately 20 signs at different locations. And one or two of the locations, there are two streets abutting the property, so that those properties might warrant two signs because of the different directions that people will be coming from by foot, bicycle, automobile, and so on down the line. One other point to mention is that we would also like, wherever possible, to identify the donor of a particular piece of property, or as you saw in one of the designs, the place where it is of substantial importance and size, such as Pope's Pond. And John, I think you had recommended that that might be referred to as Pope's Pond Preserve. And we could move accordingly on the recommendation.
I saw that email, but somebody else can claim credit for that. I think somebody else sent the email, but I happen to agree with it.
Okay.
I don't know, Wendy, was that you? Or I'm not sure who sent the email around, but I think that was a good suggestion from, whatever source.
I don't think so. Any questions or recommendations as we get underway? Wendy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I didn't want to take any credit for an idea that I didn't contribute, but thank you, John. I appreciate that.
All right, well, thank you. I don't think we need any action item at this point.
That is correct.
Okay.
But we have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And now it'd be a matter of finalizing the material, how that we can put into place. And the DPW, Mike Dennehy, has talked to me, will be happy to collaborate in getting them all in place.
What about cost? Is that coming out of not our budget, but rather our revolving fund?
Correct. And we're getting cost estimates at the present time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, are you putting that out to bid, or is that, I know you have a relationship or you found somebody that had suggested a design.
I took a recommendation from the Wildlands Trust and contacted them. They are in the Syracuse, New York area. And I have an email reply from them today or yesterday that I'll get to Steve. There are two other sources, one, a firm in Quincy that did the design work. We go back to them and ask them for a quote as well. And then the East Milton Neighborhood Association has a firm, I believe they're in Stoughton, and we contact them as well. And we want to see what they have for specifications, the gauge of the material that would be used, whether it would be aluminum, whether it would be fiberglass, whether these would be just surface imprinted, or whether some parts of them would be carved. So there's a whole host of variables for us to obtain information on and discuss as a commission and making a decision.
Perfect. All right. Well, can you just stay in touch with both Steve and Kathy Bowen so that we can put it on the agenda for discussion as soon as the data is received back by you or the town?
Will do. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you. You've done a lot of work coordinating this, so we all appreciate it very much. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? All right. we can move on then. That was informational. No motion is required. Number 2 on the agenda is request for determination of applicability. This is it says MBTA right-of-way, vegetation management plan, but in fact it's Keolis. And I went back and checked today, and I made sure that the RDA that was submitted originally was by Keolis, and it was not the MBTA. And the commissioners may remember that when we spoke of this at our last meeting, Steve was good enough to put up on the display screen the area of track that the vegetation management plan would impact. And it was the area where there's a curve in the river right near the Bay State or the former Patriot paper factory. And so this is not the T tracks down by Elliott Street and the Adams Street Bridge. It's not in that area following it is not in the track that runs from Mattapan to Ashmont. It's a different section of track. So we need to distinguish between the two. The reason it's back on the agenda today is because following our vote from last month to issue a negative determination, I think within days we received some guidance from the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions. And they made recommendations that rather than issue a negative determination with some conditions, but we issue a positive determination, which would, under normal circumstances, require a notice of intent. But there is an exemption for certain railroads, among others, municipal power generators and power distributors and railroads as well, that they are exempt for certain purposes. So as long as the Keolis folks stay in compliance with that which has been approved by the originally EPA and then DEP in terms of the chemical application and the mechanism for implementation, as long as they stay within conformance of that, they're still allowed to do that without the benefit of a notice of intent because they're exempt. However, any other conduct or action would be not prohibited ultimately, but it would require the filing of a notice of intent. And that's really why the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions issued the guidance, is to make sure that whether it's a utility or a railroad or whatever it is, that they don't exceed the scope of their exemption. And for those that don't know, we have had problems in the past, not with Keolis, but with the T in terms of exceeding the scope of what we allowed under their vegetation management plan. We've had 2 instances of problems with the T, one of which led to a consent agreement by the T in which they agreed to pay, well, both to Milton and to Boston, $15,000 in cash to buy trees and then 40 hours of labor to plant those trees. And that was signed by the environmental coordinator for the MBTA a long time ago, but they've been in deficit funding ever since then. So we actually never saw the money, the trees, or the labor. So that is why it is so important that we ensure that the mechanism that we set up to allow the control of vegetation for the railroad, which is legit, but they stay within the scope of that which we allowed. Steve, I know that you gave notice to Clary Coutu.
Yes, I did.
And I don't know, I can't see, but is she on tonight?
I don't see her in the list. Sean, do you see a CC?
I do not see any such person, no.
No, I do not.
She was on at our last meeting and made a very nice presentation.
Yes.
And Steve was good enough to call her and say that we were going to consider tonight the filing of a motion for reconsideration so that we as a Conservation Commission stay within the guidance of the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions. And rather than issue a negative determination with conditions, that we issue a positive determination under the RDA, which would do 2 things. One, it would allow the Keolis folks to exercise the vegetation management plan as described and approved by DEP to control their vegetation, but any other act would require a notice of intent. That is, if they were to remove, trees, if they were to go in and cut down trees to move them by mechanical means, then they would have to come back with a notice of intent. So it does not inhibit their use of the vegetation plan that has been approved by DEP, but it would prevent any additional work or alternatives approach to clearing trees, as an example. I'm disappointed that Clary's not here because I wanted her to participate in this discussion. We know she's aware of it, and for the public's benefit, she did actually respond in writing, which is part of the public file, to the guidance issued by the MACC, sorry. In any event, that is part of the public record, and she reasserted her willingness and commitment to abide by, the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act. That would include the wetland bylaw for Milton. So I'm comfortable that if someone were to propose a motion to reconsider the negative determination of the RDA and change that to a positive response to the request for determination of applicability. And for the public's benefit, all that means is that our jurisdiction is triggered, keeping in mind that the result of this would not inhibit the implementation of the vegetation management plan in the section that you see before you. That's the bend in the Neponset River that we're looking at right in the center of the screen. But it would require that any other activity would require that Keolis come back to us to file a notice of intent. Are there any comments, questions, suggestions?
Yes, so just for clarification, I want to just read specifically the aspect of the negative determination they were seeking, which does not apply to the MBTA. And so the text of the exemption that they were looking to fall under were under the Act was activities conducted to maintain, repair, or replace, but not substantially change or enlarge an existing.
Hey, Hans,
yes,
Hans, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Sorry, I don't know where the mic is on this thing, but
okay.
It says, but not substantially change or enlarge an existing and lawfully located structure or facility used in the service of public and used to provide electric, gas, water, sewer, telephone, telegraph, or other communication services. So that exemption is clearly written to apply to utilities and not intended for transportation facilities. So that's the part that doesn't apply.
It doesn't apply, but as I understand the guidance by the Association of Conservation Commissions, they're suggesting that a positive determination will simply limit work outside of the vegetation management plan that's been approved.
Yeah, so they when their request included, they checked two aspects. There's the number 2 and number 5. So the number 2 is the one that you're talking about. And that's the one that applies to the vegetation management plan as opposed to the Mass DAR. And then the checkbox number 5 applies to the utility exemption.
All right, so we don't have to check that off when we issue a positive.
Exactly.
We simply would not check off 5 as it currently is.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for that correction. I think that's an important point. Anything else? Wendy, Jerry, Arthur, I can't see you, but I know you're out there.
No, thank you, John.
All right, then is there a motion? We'd have to have 2. The first one would be a motion to reconsider the negative determination on the request for determination of applicability. It was voted on at our last meeting. Is there such a motion to reconsider that? Hans, I see your hand. So,
So moved.
take that down. Is there a second?
Second.
I couldn't see.
Jerry.
Arthur or Jerry?
I think that was Jerry.
Jerry. Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the move to reconsider the RDA by Keolis, say aye. Or say
Aye.
Aye.
aye. All right. That's unanimous, Steve. I'd entertain a second motion to issue a positive determination with box number 2 checked off, as Hans just pointed out. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a second?
Second.
I couldn't hear who that was.
That was Ingrid.
Ingrid.
Ingrid. Oh, welcome, Ingrid. Hey, I'm glad you're here. All right, Steve, if you have that.
I do.
Is there any further discussion of this motion to issue a positive determination with box number 2 checked off, which will allow Keolis to implement the vegetation management plan as they have requested that they have permission to do so? No discussion, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
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 Looks unanimous.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Next on the agenda is number 3, notice of intent, 52 Hemlock Drive. I think Brian LaRoche is the representing the applicant.
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect.
We also have Bill Sienkiewicz is the property owner, is on the video call as well, but I'll make the presentation on their behalf.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Brian LaRoche. I'm with Bayview Properties. We work on designs of single family homes. I live in Quincy at 67 Mears Ave, and that's where our company is based out of. So I'm the applicant's designer for this project. And they've submitted an NOI for putting an addition onto their house, enlarging a deck to the rear as well. And they're in an area that is bordering vegetated wetland. And a portion of the work will be within the non-disturbance zone of 25 feet for construction, but the permanent construction will not actually be in that area when it's all said and done. So do you want me to present the drawings on the screen and do my narrative that way? Can I share my screen?
Yes, if you can't, then I think Steve can probably help you, but I would be interested in seeing the area of disturbance within the 25 feet.
All right, I'm going to request, it says the host disabled participants sharing, so I don't know if I can request.
Sean, can you do that?
I believe so. Let me just open this up. Multiple.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and he should now have the ability to do so.
Excellent.
Great. Excellent. Thanks very much.
Great.
Okay, so
does everybody on the commission know where this house is located? We've been there several times.
I'll give you a little locus. So this is Blue Hill Ave here. And then you can see Canton Ave as it runs across the back here. So this is Hemlock here. So the property that we're looking at is right on the corner of Hemlock and Blue Hill Ave.
And please note that it's just south of Hemingway Pond.
Thank you.
Right, where the Beaver Dam is or was.
Yes, that's correct.
So the pond would be to the north, and the area of wetland that we're discussing here today is delineated here by the flags that were placed in the field. We hired a botanist who recently went out and delineated the area. It was Ken Thompson who identified this area. Let's see, mostly marsh dominated with broadleaf cattail. So everything that he identified here was a wetland, no vernal pools or anything of that nature. So just area bordering vegetated wetland. We did provide the full report in our application. So if there's anyone has any specific questions about that, I can get into it, but I'll stick to the plans.
So the area excuse me, Brian, just as a curiosity, this is Steve Ibis. At flag K12, WFK12 on the plan, there are some tussock sedge next to the lawn, which you do not see very often. I just wanted to point that out for the commission, should the commission wish to take a look.
KT12, am I pointing to the correct flag?
KT, we want KT, I'm sorry, KT2. Forgive me, all the way over the other side. Keep going to the right. Yep, right there.
3, 2.
And there's 2, yes.
Okay.
And what did you call it, Steve?
Tussock sedge, also called upright sedge. Okay. It's a obligate wetland plant, and it's like a little tussock, that's all. Just an interesting plant. You don't see them very often, particularly close to lawns, that's all. Sorry to interrupt your train, Brian.
Nope, no problem at all. So the proposed work, we have an existing deck at the rear of the property, which we're looking to expand to make a better connection to the pool that was put in not too long ago. And then also to construct a one-story addition on the right side of the dwelling. Now, the design of the addition, which I'll show you in just a moment, is designed so that it's on one foundation wall on the edge here, and then the rest of the structure would attach to the main building here. So we are going to leave the area underneath open. So if any of the area in the spring, if it gets wet, the water can go underneath and there'd be nothing to impede that. So the area will remain open and available for the air to move through, and if water rises, can go underneath. The addition is going to be elevated 4 feet above the ground. And then the portion to the rear here, it's delineated on this survey. 8 feet of it's going to be cantilevered out over so that no structure will touch the ground at the back here of the addition. So we won't, in the completed construction, will not occupy the non-disturbance zone. But certainly during construction, we will have to disturb a portion of it to get the foundation wall in. We provided the structural drawings to show, let me just get up, zoom out here to show you the structural drawings. So we're going to provide a steel, concrete foundation wall will be the only thing that will be on the ground. It's a single wall, and then a cantilever out here, which will hold up this corner. And then the rest of the structure is going to be attaching to the existing dwelling. Everything underneath will remain, permeable. The other drawing that I can show you too.
You're putting a roof over the top of a portion of the non-disturbance zone.
Yes, we are. Yeah. But the area is permeable. So if the the water of the wetland were to rise, it would remain permeable. So the corner would cantilever here. You can see that in the diagram.
What are you doing with the roof runoff? Where is that going?
Everything stays on site and runs to the ground. We're not putting any gutters on the side of the house. We're going to let the water drip to the ground and soak in.
And what's the increase in impervious surface? Do you know?
The impervious surface will be the footprint of the wall. The wall is a 10-inch wall. It's going to be 20 feet long, so less than 20 square feet of new impermeable area.
What about the roof?
What about the roof? Yeah.
Well, sure. We'll be covering the whole area, of course.
Right.
What's the square footage of addition that you're proposing?
So the addition on the side here is 30 feet by 20 feet.
And then on the other side, which is also within the 100-foot buffer?
Within the 100-foot buffer, we're looking to extend the family room by 6 feet and 17 feet across.
Okay, so what's that total?
Let me just do a quick tally for you.
That's 120 plus 600. Should be 620.
well, I got 100. So it's going to be 708 square feet. It's 108 I have for this, unless I did the math wrong. No, 708.
You said 6 feet, the extension for the family room, and 20 feet long? Is that correct?
It's 17 feet. So
Sorry, 17 feet long. Okay.
17'4". So it'd be 17 foot, 0.4.
Yep.
So you'd end up with a 104.4 square feet plus the 600 square feet of the addition to the right. So 704.4 square feet of area. The area of this addition is also open underneath. It's founded on posts. So there's no basement space below these two areas.
It gives new meaning to the non-disturbance area. Simply because you're not touching the ground, you're saying you're not disturbing it.
Right. Well, the wetland bylaw does allow for during construction activities for disturbance, but then not afterwards.
I'm talking about afterwards.
Right.
We've never done that. The only time we ever came close to it was up on Heather Drive at the very end of it, when it was built on the side of a hill, but it still didn't extend into the 25 foot. Wow, Wendy, I'd be very interested in your take on this. I'm not happy about it. I'm not convinced that's not a disturbance by putting an extension of the house into the 25 feet, albeit one that does not touch the ground.
Frankly, I don't understand how this could be considered not a disturbance.
No, neither do I.
Yeah. I feel like this is very clearly a disturbance being proposed in the non-disturbance zone.
Ingrid, I can't see you, but what's your reaction?
I agree. I don't understand what the argument is that it's not a disturbance. If I can't remember the name of the fellow, if you could please speak to that in more detail.
Well, the reason we were saying non-disturbance in that, for the wetland area is a place it's a low depression where in the spring, the water certainly rises, it collects water. So the water level, would rise at times. So we're not impeding in the ability for the ground to absorb any of the storm water. So by keeping the area of the addition underneath open and free for water to run through, and if the water were to rise, it could still get absorbed through the ground. So we're not interrupting any of the flows towards the wetlands. We're not creating any impervious ground area other than the footing of the foundation wall, which is pretty small. So the footprint on the ground is de minimis.
But I would argue
there's been extensive consideration that shading or covering an area is also considered. If it's for things like solar panels and those sort of things, that is also considered impervious surface. So that roof area would be considered impervious because that water that's hitting that roof is not going straight to the ground, it's being diverted to another location. And I think what maybe in your best interest is to try and divert that stormwater runoff from the roof into a place that's managed, maybe into a subsurface chamber or something like that, so that you don't have excessive flows. And then again, it's really pushing the line of the no disturb to say that there's a cantilever deck over that. It really seems to try to skirt the requirements for the project convenience. So, I mean, that's...
Well, the non-disturbance, I hear what you're saying. The non-disturbance regulations and the wet laws don't, the bylaws rather, don't really stipulate what the disturbance is.
Understood.
It's in a buffer, it's really a buffer it isn't, it's not like we're shading, you know, the wetland area. It's the buffer zone to the wetland area. So we're not, you know, it's lawn right now. It's grass. It's, you know, it's manicured area.
And so when the rain, when the rain hits that area, it hits vegetation. It doesn't allow the water to channel, and doesn't allow the water to flow. When you have a roof like that, the water hits the roof, and there's nothing to slow it down or stop it, even if you don't have gutters. And so that channels where that water drops, that will start to wear away your lawn, and it will start to wear away the ground. And then you will have erosion in that area as a result.
What's the distance? If you were to pull that back to stay out of the 25 feet, what are we talking about there? Like 4 feet or something?
It's 8 feet. The corner of the addition, it's the disturbance zone cuts right through the corner here. And it's about 8 feet off the corner here, and then 8 feet in the corner here. So it's the very corner of the addition.
So it would be right now you've got a 30-foot room. If you pulled it back, you'd have a 22-foot room. Correct?
Yeah, that would be correct. I mean, I suppose if we had to, we would probably cut the corner if we had to, so we didn't lose all of the area.
Well, my gut reaction here is that it is a disturbance in the non-disturbed zone, and if you just stay out of the 25 feet, we're pretty easy to work with. But my recommendation would be, and I don't speak for the commission, but my recommendation would be that you pull it back so you stay out of the 25-foot zone, and then you've avoided an issue. Is there access to the outside there? I mean,
not from this addition, no. The access to the rear is from underneath this bump out here, and also from the stairs here. So there's no, and then there's a garage door on the front on this side.
What's the deck part of it that I'm looking at?
Oh, that was like a Juliet balcony off of the master bath. So
you were trying to extend it even further.
Well, we didn't because it was a deck with open decking. I didn't see that as an impervious condition.
Oh, can I interrupt for just a moment? I apologize. Steve, are you able to get Jerry Burke back into the...
I'm back in, John. I'm back in.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, well, my recommendation would be that you pull the proposed addition out of the non-disturbance zone, even though it's cantilevered. But I invite comments from other commissioners or questions. Actually, are there any abutters or members of the public that have a question or wish to make a comment? Hearing none. Any thoughts from the commissioners?
And I guess, can we ask the applicant if that's something they would consider?
Good question.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if that's the wish of the commission, we weren't sure how, on the interpretation of how the no disturbance, whether it included the air rights over the land. That was not clear to us. So it is now. So we can make an adjustment and come back to you with a revised design.
It's a nice design. I'm sure it will look very nice as designed. But yeah, I mean, if there's a way you can reconfigure that, I think that the other commissioners would really appreciate that.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. All right, we'll do that.
All right. So how does anybody want to see the site? I've been there a lot because we were there a number of times, even before the pool went in. So I'm pretty familiar with the site, but others may want to see. We'd like to see the line anyway. Steve, have you been out to see the flags?
I have indeed.
Okay.
There's also a very large cork tree on the site, which is interesting as well.
That's the second one you've spotted in the last month.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
In Truro Lane.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody want a site walk? I think we're going to have a site walk anyway, whether in the next couple of weeks. Does anybody want to come out and see this?
Well, I think that if we're able to get a revised design ahead of that, we might even be able to close the hearing at that time, depending on how long that takes, right?
Yeah, we can turn around a revised design in about a week and get that back in.
All right, that's good because the site walks, Brian, we announced them as public meetings, so we're in full session. We can vote on anything at the site walk. So why don't we do that with the assent of the applicant? If we can put it off until our site walk, and we do our site walks on Saturday mornings, Brian.
Okay.
And so we can look ahead. Steve, do you have a calendar? And can you give?
I do. And the next two Saturdays are October. Let me see. It's the 17th, this coming Saturday, and the 24th, and then it would be the 31st Halloween.
Well, the 17th would be too fast for Brian, I assume.
That's right. Maybe the 24th.
24th is good with me. And how about the others?
I think I can make that work. Yep.
I can't see you, but Jerry, Ingrid, Wendy?
Yes, that's good for me.
I'll give you a tentative yes.
All right, good. So let's make it the 24th. And we start at 8:30, Brian?
Yep. All right, perfect. That sounds great. Do you want me to get these updated materials in to the office so they can be distributed before the walkthrough?
Yes, please. That would be very helpful to us.
Sure thing. Okay. I'll coordinate that with the office to get that taken care of.
All right, good enough.
Great.
Then with the assent of the applicant, we will continue this until Saturday morning, October 24th at 8:30 a.m. on site, 52 Hemlock Drive.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is notice of intent. Actually, I think this is an RDA at 479 Atherton Street.
Right.
Hi, this is Doug.
As a notice of intent, but I believe it's a request for determination of applicability.
Correct. Hi, my name is Doug Stefanov. I'm the architect, 479 Atherton Street. And with me here tonight are the homeowners, Mihail Bozliov and his wife, Daniela Iandanova. So we come tonight to you. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for hearing us, first of all. We come to you tonight for determination of applicability. We have a house, single family, which is outside of the 100-foot buffer, but we do have an existing driveway on the back of the house that's within that 100 feet of a wetland. It's a drainage easement. Thank you for the graphics. So we're planning on doing an addition to the house, an increase of 550 square feet on the ground floor and a future second story on the existing, the remaining footprint. What you see in front of you is the addition and the new ground level patio, which would be at the back of the house. It was felt from the town building department, it'd be good to come before you and ask for your review and suggestions, as we are, the existing building, as you can see by the green line provided by Native Tech, our wetland scientist, does touch our existing back deck, but no work occurs within the 100 feet.
Is this the one, Steve, that did the plans initially did not have the flags in place?
That is correct. Well, they did not have the flag numbers nor the distance to the deck. And I have another sheet that shows the distance to the deck as well.
Yeah, we have it too. Yes.
Just for your information. And what else? They didn't have the Oh, and here it's not shown. There's a stone patio. This is an existing conditions plan that I'm showing you. And the proposed conditions plan is somewhere else in the files, okay?
I have it if you'd like.
Can you put it up?
Yes, if you allow me to share.
Please do. Sean, can you do that?
Permission is already granted for multiple people to share. You shouldn't have an issue.
Yeah, I have it here. Let me open it up. Let me just go to the right side.
But both can't be up simultaneously is the difference.
Oh, I see.
That's fine. I will stop then. Good. There we are.
There we go.
Yep.
Is that me?
So there's a proposed patio area here.
We lost it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's fine. No, it's fine. It's right here. And then it's 111.2 feet to the corner of the new stairway, actually, addition.
Correct.
And there's an addition here as well. And I have been out and looking at the flags, and the flags are appropriate as well.
And so just to clarify, you're not doing anything with the driveway?
No, driveway remains as is today. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it looks to me like the work is all outside the jurisdiction.
I would agree.
Is the grading, I'm looking at the, I can't point to it, but if you look at the patio below, right near the corner of the stairs, I guess, which will be the new, that is the shaded area?
Yes.
Yes.
On the wetland side of that, where the arrow touches the corner of the proposed addition, is there grading in there? Grading changes there? I know part of it's the driveway, but what's between the driveway and the patio?
There's some green backyard or open grassland between the retaining wall of the patio and the driveway, bituminous driveway, and that's going to remain as is. There's no change in grade.
Okay.
We'll replant it after construction.
And I see that you've got a planting plan, or at least a designation of the shrubs and trees that are going there.
John, I asked about that as well. And those are the shrubs that are existing on site rather than planting.
Maple. I'm loving this.
No. That's on site already, John. Okay.
I know.
Yeah, we just inherited that.
Right. And you also interpret it as a planting plan. So did I. I interpret it as a planting plan rather than shrubs extant. That's all.
All right. Does anybody feel the need to put this on a site visit, or are people comfortable with the distance that's on the plan, the 111 feet?
I'm comfortable with it as is.
I'm comfortable with it as is.
Gary?
I'm comfy as Steve is, if Steve is comfy.
and I am. How's that?
All righty then. Then I am too.
All right. Are there any abutters or members of the public that have a question or wish to make a comment? Hearing none, it appears that there's a consensus that this would be a negative determination. The only concern that I would have is that, during construction, does this plan show erosion controls? I'm looking at, I'm not sure what that red line.
That's the limit of current vegetation. That's our canopy.
All right. Does anybody feel there's a need to put in any erosion controls during construction? What I'm talking about is a negative determination with a special condition.
John, I do not, because you see the driveway there.
The driveway, that's right.
The driveway and that area just drops off very steeply, actually. Drops off, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 feet down in. So I don't see the need for the erosion controls.
Okay. All right. I haven't seen it, so I'll rely upon and defer to your assessment of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any other concerns for a special condition, or are people comfortable with a negative determination? determination for the RDA? Hearing no objections, is there a motion to issue a negative determination for the request for determination of applicability?
So moved.
Thanks, Arthur. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear all the ayes.
Aye.
Aye.
We got it.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your time.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, you too.
Okay.
All right. Next on our agenda is notice of intent 654 Canton Avenue.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening. Thank you. I'm Kristen Repa. This is my husband, Leonardo Savona. We're representing ourselves. We are looking to add a garage to the existing single-family house that we have on the property at 654 Canton Avenue. The two-car garage would be 24 feet by 36 feet. It would have a roof on it. It would be falling within, I guess, just within about the 100-foot buffer zone of the wetlands. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. We're getting there.
Yep.
Just hang on.
Would be for, this would be separate from the house. It's not attached. And it is just on the edge of the existing driveway.
And I'm trying to move it around here. And there we go. There we go.
Thank you.
Certainly. Yep. I think we have it there. There we go.
I know the address is Canton Avenue, but is this Mergewood?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yep.
Yes. And there is an intermittent stream that runs across Mergewood here in this direction, and runs back across Mergewood in that direction.
That's right.
So it runs from south to north and basically makes a large U on this property. And it was flagged by Scott Morrison of LE Ecotech. And I saw the flags. Some flags I thought were too high, but they were on the other side of the stream. But the flags that are on this side of the stream are appropriate in my estimation. And there's the 100-foot line right here at the garage.
All right, Steve. Historically, the commission spent a lot of time on this property with respect to that stream. Now, I am going back 20 years or so.
Okay.
But there was at one time a redirection of the stream. So I'd like to see where the flags are now and where the stream is, because at one point it moved and then it moved back, as streams often do.
Okay.
So if we could put that on the list for the 24th, I think that would be an appropriate thing. If that's okay with the applicants.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Steve, just for clarification purposes, are we still in drought condition?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's very dry right now. I was walking in the stream channel the other day.
I'd like to report we just got an inch of rain since this meeting started. I'm not kidding.
I don't think that'll do much, Jerry.
Okay.
We are really at a deficit, frankly. I'm a water commissioner and I watch it very carefully.
Yeah, but Steve, you're a new water commissioner, aren't you? You've only been 36 years?
33 so far.
Okay, that's what I thought.
More than that, Steve.
You're a slow learner.
Right, exactly. But it's an interesting parcel here. And I can see there are other stream channels that come in from the south. From the south, I believe. Yeah, in this area here. So that makes sense to me. Take a look at it.
All right.
Just FYI, there are some temperate zone bamboo growing on this property close to the stream as well. Similar to the ones I have in my front yard. So you'll be able to see what my front yard looks like.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So if we're at 52 Hemlock at 8:30, we'll be close to 9 o'clock at your home, if that's okay with you folks.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yes. On the 24th. That sounds great.
Perfect. Are there any other questions or comments from abutters, members of the public, or other commissioners?
None here.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll see you on the 24th.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Next one?
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the enforcement order at 26 Russellwood Road.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, folks.
Good evening. You see me?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So, my name is...
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Van Dow, and here's my husband, Kondo. Okay. And do you want me to present the story, or you already know?
Yes, that would be very helpful to us.
Okay. So we got the tree cut a month ago. And actually, before we have cut that tree, we have three people with the three company with the license, and they came to give us an estimate. But they never mentioned about like putting a permit. We're not aware about the wetland until we got the letter from town, and that's we need to attend the meeting tonight. Okay, and you want to add in something?
Wow. Who was the tree company?
I'm sorry?
Which tree company did you have?
It's like Gilbert Brother Tree Service.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
It's like Gilbert Brothers Tree Service.
It was GN Tree Service, and this is Steve Ivis, and I've spoken with them.
Yes.
From Lynn, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yes. So the day that they came down, and then somebody called the Milton Tower, and then somebody come down. His name like Charlie, and then he took a picture, and then he said, you know, you guys okay? You know, it's not, you know, is everything okay? And then you can go ahead and do it. His name Charlie, but we don't recall his last name.
Yeah, we just know his first name is Charlie, and he say it's okay for you guys to cut the tree. So that's why we let the company proceed the work. But on that day, if he say no, and then we will stop and pull the permit. But because Charlie he say that it's okay for us, so that's why we let them do it. So we're not aware that we violate the wetland.
We didn't know anything about wetland law actually.
Wetland law
until we got the letter, and then that's why we went online and look up the wetland law, and then now we know everything about wetland law. Like, yeah, because like, you know, actually 2 months ago, before we plan to cut the tree down, I went online, Google it. If we have we have to have a permit for cut the tree down belong to your property. And it's so like in Massachusetts, there's no law that require permit to cut a tree in your property. So, but now I know why it's a wetland law. It's related to the conservation. And now we look up on the Milton Town and we see everything there. And also we're not aware that if the company come down, they should know everything about that. We have like 3 different companies. They come down, they give us a quote, and they didn't mention anything about, you know, permit or wetland law or anything like that.
Yeah, and the reason we cut the tree because we concern the safety for our children, because the tree was really old, and every year or every time when my kids play around under the tree in the backyard, the branch keep like fell down. So
and also like our neighbor just like recently they extension the property. It's very proximity to the tree.
So we just worry that if there's a big storm, it's my hit to their the tree maybe fall down and hit to their tree, and then we have to take our responsibility. So
how long have you lived at the home?
Since 2007, so that's 13 years.
All right. Well, I have to report to you, and it's difficult because he's not here, but Charlie is Charlie Colleton, and Charlie Colleton works for the DPW. And he did go out there and he acknowledged that he saw it. He determined that the tree was healthy. He reported to the assistant director of DPW, Tim McCarthy, that he indicated that the tree was healthy. And he denies that he gave you approval to cut the tree down. So that's a problem, but it's difficult here because he's not here, and you should be able to hear from him as well.
Yeah.
But I did talk to the folks at DPW today, and I did not talk to Charlie directly, but I talked to Kathy Bowen. She works with Charlie Colleton, and she inquired of him. This is right next to the brook. Am I correct that the fence we see in the picture there is essentially on top of the wall for the brook? This is Pine Tree Brook.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Have you been out to see it, Steve?
I took that photo.
Oh,
and
okay.
the smallest distance there is about 32 inches from about here to here. So it was a big tree. Smallest distance, that's right, 32 inches. I measured it right here to here. So it's a big tree. It was a big tree.
Any idea how old?
No, I didn't stop to count rings, but my guess 125 plus.
Wow. Yeah, the only time we've had anything like that was at the corner of Elliott Street and Central Avenue. That's referred to as the Adams Oak, John Adams Oak, that was 300 years old, that was removed. And that one was pretty controversial because one of our conservation members was present when it was being cut down. He tried to stop it. He tried to go to the police and say, stop cutting that tree, but they cut it anyway. And that did become controversial. We issued a pretty significant fine, although it wasn't necessarily in dollars. Because as we've all discussed recently, replacing trees, even with our 3-to-1 performance standard, doesn't really address an issue of a 100-plus-year-old tree of this size. And we have information from the DPW that it was a healthy tree. In the situation of Elliott Street, and again, that is different because that was very controversial when it was coming down, and the developer took it down over our vociferous objections. Actually, both Kathy Bowen and Ken Nade, the commissioner at the time, they were both present. But in that situation, and Steve, you may have to go back and check on this, but our enforcement order that resulted in a fine had to do with a number of trees. And because there's no way, and it would be cost prohibitive to try to get a tree of that magnitude transported, and it wouldn't live anyway, even if you could transplant a tree like that. But we had I think we had six 6-inch trees, and one, I think it's a 12-inch tree. But again, that was a commercial venture, and that had implications that are certainly not here. And we've heard from the homeowners that they were unaware of the wetlands law, and at least they thought they had approval to go forward with it. So I'm not suggesting that to be a fine of the magnitude of 131 Elliott Street. But I am suggesting that the performance standard is going to call for more than 3, 2.5-inch caliper trees.
Absolutely.
This is pretty hefty. So I'm open to suggestions as to.
I want to something, sir. Actually, the tree they has disease on it. I was talking to my neighbor, Greg Gordon, about the disease that he suggests that we should hire company come over and take a look at. They have like a mold on the trunk and on the branch. But every year, big storm, we have like branch falling down. But since we have like my neighbor Mike on the right side of my property, the tree is very proximity to his extension. So I'm concerned that it might the branch might fall down to his extension property. And also a lot of kids, neighborhood, run around in the backyard. You can know you see that recently a lot of like branch a tree falling down after like extreme heavy windy. So that's why I didn't know anything about wetland law, be honest. Yeah.
So I think the question here is, would you be willing to install some replacement trees, not the same size tree, but some smaller size trees that are, the trunk is 2.5 inches wide. So it would be a slightly mature young tree to offset the removal of this one. Is that something that?
So you suggest that we place another tree at the same position on that tree, or
not the same spot? That would be impossible because
we didn't know anything.
You have a big stump there.
Yeah,
but maybe along.
Yeah, we didn't even know that we violate that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah, we spend money to cut that tree because there's a lot of issue. We've been here like more than 13 years. Yeah. And that we decide at the end. But then, I regret that I should talk to my neighbor if we knew that. And then, I wouldn't spend money to do that. It's not only, our concern about our safety of like kids, neighborhood run around, but also my neighbor that extend his property. The tree so proximity, I'm so concerned about my library too. The tree, like every year the branch come down, and then we have to have someone come and clean it.
Understood.
Yeah, but also if Charlie at that day when he presented, the company just like trim only a small branch. If he stopped us right there, I think it wouldn't happen like that. Yeah, so I'm very surprised that he's he report back to the Milton town that the healthy tree he took a picture and he said you guys okay, he put a thumbs up like that. And I also brought to attention about the fence in the the border to the conservation. It's been years. I hope that we can bring up to the attention to the committee after this issue. But this has been years like that, and my kids like almost like fall down to the fence, and a lot of kids neighbor, we like just like go back and forth, we open up, and the kids like play in the backyard. But we report to the Milton town, and then you call so many times, left a message, but nobody come down and then take care of that issue.
I'm not sure what fence you're talking about because the Conservation Commission and the DPW looked at the fence at your neighbors and it was falling apart. And literally the DPW did quite a bit of work. They were there for 3 or 4 days working on the concrete wall and the fence on top of it. And at the same time, your neighbor did ask to cut a tree down that had died. So he asked the Conservation Commission, specifically me, I was out there looking at it, taking photos. The tree was dead. It was an American elm. It had died. And we said, fine, okay. And I checked with the DPW as well. They may have even cut it. I'm not sure. But you should have followed that activity they asked the question, can we cut this tree? DPW had been working on the site next door to you. You could have asked them at that time, you know, what's the process? I'm just saying, that's all.
Oh, we didn't know that. What do you refer to, sir? You mean that tree next to our neighbor?
I'm referring to the tree to the north. I believe it's at 30. Is that correct, Russell Wood? Your neighbor at 30, who's got the Mexican Mexican sunflowers growing now?
Yeah, maybe we're not home.
The DPW was there for at least 3 or 4 days with heavy equipment in his backyard, literally right next to your house. So don't tell me that you didn't see it. Literally, it was large equipment. They even had them. They had plywood on the lawn next to your house. So they did the work.
I don't know about that, but we've been requested to Milton Town like many years. Yeah, about the tree in the front of our house. That, you know, the branches like, you know, of cover to our property, and also it's both on top of the electric core. And my wife, you know, kept calling Milton to just like branch it, but they kept saying, okay, they're gonna have someone cut down and take a look at it, but it's never been done. You know, it's more than 2-3 years now.
What was the cost of the tree removal?
Like I said, you know, it's like concern our safety for our.
What is the cost? How much did we pay?
Yes, we paid like $2,000 to cut that tree, and also he come back to prune it. But then, you know, after we knew that Steve called Gilbert company, and they said, you know, we have to stop it. And I knew that at that time, you know, he said, okay, we scheduled to come back and prune it, but then he stopped it. So luckily, you know, we didn't prune the tree. He's scheduled to come back and do it, but then Steve called him.
So we start to prune the root. So it's there.
Do you mean
he scheduled
grinding
like
the stump?
Tree. He promised come back like 2-3 weeks to prune the root.
Sounds what
the
you're
additional
saying,
cost
right?
like about $700.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know, like 3 different companies that came down here. One is like Milton, and another 2 like in Stoughton and Canton company. They come down and give us a quote for, you know, like roughly about $3,000 to $3,500. Yeah, to do that.
Just as a suggestion to the commission, Newton, I found out recently, what they do is if it's a large tree that comes down, they estimate the diameter, breast height, called DBH, and then they require that the trees replaced add to the same diameter breast height. For example, if it was 39 inches breast height, you'd have 13 trees at 3 inches DBH. I thought that was an interesting approach to tree replacement.
Well, we also have the virtual tree bank too, correct?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So can you, Hans, you have a working knowledge of this. Can you explain to the owners, in addition to tree replacement, what the other options might be with respect to the tree bank? How that would be estimated?
I was actually hoping to get that number from John, but I think he's frozen.
I heard Kathy told me this earlier last week, actually. She said that the number is $500 is how the DPW figures it, $250 for the tree, and then $250 for the planting and watering in the first year or 2 of the trees. And I thought that was a reasonable figure.
And that would be per tree.
Per tree, that's correct.
Yeah, we've done that historically.
Yes.
You know, at one time it was 400. We've We've gone to 500 on occasion as well. But I'm concerned that it's the number of trees. And again, I'm not putting this situation into the Adams oak in Central Avenue. But that one was six 6-inch trees and one 12-inch tree that was the replacement. So it's trees of this magnitude are outside of our usual performance standard at three trees to replace one.
That would, John, that would total up to be 48 inches. And that's probably what it was. It was probably around a 48-inch tree.
Sure.
There.
Oh, yeah, it was 300 years old.
Right.
So
I'm just looking. Sorry, Hans, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm just wondering if it's, possible to try and replant, get some vegetation back on the edge of the brook. The value in terms of the wetland value of the tree within the resource area is pretty significant along there, especially considering that there's so many properties that have cleared right up to the edge of the brook. There is very little left along that section of vegetation, and that's what that vegetation that's out there is what's left that we're still trying to protect. So trying to get some vegetation back in there, I think would be.
And the reason for the vegetation is to provide shading for the brook, and that provides an increase, or I should say a decrease in the temperature of the brook, which provides an increase in the dissolved oxygen for anything that's living in the brook. So that's really the goal, is to get those dissolved oxygen numbers higher than they are with just no trees at all and hot water. Hot water does not contain much dissolved oxygen.
Correct.
This is Ingrid. Does anyone know how much room vis-a-vis the wall, which has got to be wider at the bottom, obviously, than the top? How much room is there to plant a tree that's going to grow to substantial size, close to this chain link fence? Can anyone speak to that?
There's only about 3 or 4 feet there, Ingrid.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about laterally? Looking at the brook to the left and the right.
Plenty of room. Plenty of room.
All right. So I agree with Hans that I think we need to take a look at protecting the brook. I'm just not comfortable saying that this is going to be 3 2.5-inch caliber trees.
No, absolutely not.
Because of the magnitude of this tree.
I'm just looking at our proposed replacement tree policy that Hans drafted a while ago. I know it's on our agenda for later tonight, but the table that we have showing the replacement tree and shrub schedule says that trees that are 24 inches or greater at DBH, diameter of breast height, it says that they should remain, trees over 24 inches DBH should remain whenever feasible, but at a minimum, the total number of linear feet of the tree to be removed shall be replaced in kind by trees, shrubs, or a combination of the equivalent linear footage. So Steve, while I like what you were sharing about, was it Newton's policy?
Yes.
Of trying to replicate the DBH, but if we maybe consider this draft policy of looking at what the height is of the tree, I'm wondering how many trees we might be looking at for replacement.
Does anybody have a photo of the tree before it was cut? That's the only way we could figure out the height. We don't have the height. That's the missing number, missing variable in the equation.
I mean, is it possible that we could estimate? I mean, did I miss what kind of tree it is, or was?
This is an oak tree.
It was an oak.
Yes.
And it looks, based on the cut, it looks like it was quite healthy.
Yes.
Probably like 40 to 50 feet.
Oh, at least.
At least.
Oh, more than that.
I think it's probably more than that. Yeah.
I mean, I would think that we'd be able to come up with a rough estimate of, you know, based on the size of the stump. I mean, if we wanted to implement our soon to be adopted tree policy.
Is the applicant, I can't see the applicant. I think they're still here. Do they have any photos of, you know, family gatherings, birthday parties and whatnot in the backyard that would show the tree?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I think I can't see you, but I think I heard you say repeat. Yeah. What I'm asking is, do you have any photographs, any pictures of the tree?
Can I suggest something else? Can we maybe do a site visit, and maybe you could point out to us a similarly sized tree?
Yes. Yeah.
Are there other trees the same size in the area?
Yes. Hence, I agree that, yeah, we can show you that. Yep.
And so then we can get an estimate off that.
Yes. I open, you know, your proposal, hence, you know, you know, we admit that we didn't know anything about the law, so yeah, we're willing to do, you know, to.
What is your suggestion?
Yeah, your proposal, yeah.
But we just like want the surprise why Charlie, the town.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, that day
you have to bring him up, and then, you know, in front of us, and then, you know, like confront the situation that he was there, you know. They just started, and then they just let trim the, even like you should bring the GN company in this violation, and then let them take you know, accountable, you know, what they do, and also they should know that better, you know. But then, you know, I wonder, like Charlie, you know, is from Milton Town, he should know better than us, you know. I mean, of course, like we violated, we didn't know that, but then nobody like spend money to do, you know, things that we know about, you know. So I was surprised that, you know, Charlie, you know, he was there, he took picture, and then, you know, and I said, you guys okay, you know, yeah. But,
all right, why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this until October 24th? We'll do a site visit. And we'll stop by your house probably at about 9:30 in that time frame on Saturday morning.
Yes, sir.
Is that agreeable to you?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
right.
Anytime, sir. Yes, so we can make the time for that. Yeah. So at September, you said like October 17?
No, the 24th.
Oh, 24th. So next week, next Saturday.
No, it's a week from Saturday. This coming Saturday is the 17th. The following Saturday will be the 24th.
Yes, yes. And when you're there, I want to show you.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to talk about things there?
Juan?
All right. I didn't ask if there are any abutters or members of the public that had a question or wish to make a comment. Any commissioners? Arthur?
John, to Wendy's point, there is available research on height diameter ratios to the crown of trees, apparently by species. So we could do a little bit, I just did a little bit of Googling and some basic information on that.
I knew you were a millennial, Arthur.
I know, Arthur. Yeah, I've been looking too, and just while we've been talking, and it seems to me that it was probably 100 feet tall, if not taller.
That would have been my guess.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that an oak tree with a 39-inch DBH is about 200 to 300 years old. It's been there for a long time, and at least 100 feet tall.
The house was built like 70s. I think like the house like 70 years old. So how come like the tree like 300?
Tree probably predated the house.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The tree came before the house.
Yep.
Is it even like come before the creek?
Quite possible.
Yeah, maybe, but it was probably left in place at the time the brook was channelized.
All right, and with the consent of the applicant, or it's not an applicant, it's an enforcement order. So we shall reconvene in public session on October 24th at your home at approximately 9:30 on Saturday, October 24th.
Yes,
all right.
Who will be there? What's the name of the person that will be?
We will all be there.
So
my name
all of us.
So
Hans.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And just to follow up, I don't know, Wendy, what you found out, but one of the studies that I have on tree physiology is that the diameter is taken at breast height, not at base.
Yeah. So it's probably a bit thinner up higher, but still it's a good old tree, or it was.
Oh, no question about
that.
Well,
I was basing that on what Steve had said, that at the most narrow part across the stump there, it was about 36 inches.
Actually, I said it was 32 at the narrowest.
Oh, 32, I apologize.
But that, again, that was just the narrowest portion.
Right. Right. It looks like it was quite a bit wider in
yes.
the majority of the rest of the circumference.
It was a very senior and very tall tree.
Yeah.
But I suggest like something like, should we have like Charlie, statement. Yeah, so we have Charlie come to that day too, at the meeting.
I can certainly ask.
Please.
It's a public meeting, and I understand that your desire to, sort of due process confrontation. I appreciate that.
I just want to find out, what's his, side story about, when they tell us like, told us like a different story, and then he was there. I mean, they just started, but then if he's stopping, then it wouldn't happen.
His task, John, as I understand it from Kathy, was to go there and find out if it was a healthy tree. His task was not to do anything else.
No, I agree with that. And that's what she told me as well.
Exactly. So just for the gentleman to know that his task was not to make any kind of evaluation except for whether the tree was healthy or not. That was it.
Then he wouldn't like make a statement like, you guys okay, you guys okay, you guys can go ahead and purchase that, Yeah.
Understood.
Well, he denies having said that. So
yeah, he
certainly invite.
Yeah. He told that to the company, not us. Yeah, that's what we recall from GN products company.
And I must say to the crowd that I spoke to the gentleman from GN, and he said we had permission from the man who came over from the DPW. He did say that to me, so I don't know what the truth is. That's all.
Okay. Well, I'll certainly give an invitation to Charlie Colleton to see if he will be in attendance at the public meeting. Yep. All right. Thank you very much to the homeowners. I can't see you, but I do appreciate you coming in. Thank you, and we'll see you on Saturday, the 24th.
Yes, sir.
Right, thank you.
Looking forward to see you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is number 7, enforcement order at 137 Bradley Road.
Bertha, nó có cái slide của cái tree ấy. You should have that, and then qua chụp ảnh trước khi nó cắt xuống không? Các cái company.
Do you know if anybody's going to be in attendance tonight?
He was certainly invited with a letter. Okay. Is Mr. Gannon there?
I see no such person.
Okay. I'm going to just share what I found on the site last Friday.
Yeah, hey, can I interrupt you for a minute, Steve?
Certainly.
When I flashed through my screen, I saw Nick Venke on the screen, and he may not know that we took out of order. That is 1439 Brush Hill Road. Nick, if you're there and can hear me, I can't see you any longer. But we actually took that out of order. Can you
okay.
Screen down and because I saw Nick's name there, and I don't want him to be sitting waiting for us to call. Could you just take the photo down for a minute and see if we can call up Nick?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I just saw your name on the screen. When the last photograph came down, and we took that's number 8, 1439 Brush Hill Road was number 8 on the agenda. But when we started, we knew there was going to be no vote, and Arthur and Susan Murphy were here. So we just did it as an informational session and addressed the fact that a superseding order had issued. You had expressed concerns about the construction phasing so as not to interfere with the salamander migration.
Correct.
And the Murphys agreed to make sure that they did not do any construction during that March and April timeframe. Mm-hmm. There will be a construction meeting on Monday, this coming Monday, it's 11 a.m. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes.
And the environmental monitor is going to be Jim Burke from DeSalle Burke. And Steve Ivis will be present at that meeting, who is the appointee of the designee of the Conservation Commission. This is the pre-construction meeting, so people can figure out who's going to do what, where, and when. And Arthur Murphy also brought up the fact that the wattles had been removed. There was a request that they be removed, and he said he's done that.
Okay.
So we advanced it to the beginning of the agenda. I didn't see you before. I hope you haven't been waiting this whole time. But we passed on that because we really had no motion before us. There was nothing for us to vote on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for suspending the suspense here, and appreciate the commission's serious consideration of the whole project. So thank you everyone for that.
All right,
quick,
thank you, man.
before you go,
Nick, I know that
Mr. Venke.
Nick, I also know that DEP was grateful for your calling to Heidi Davis. I saw that she wrote back to you and thanked you for bringing to her attention the need to protect the salamanders during the migration season. So we appreciate your concern and involvement.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Real quick question. What's the reporting obligation for the environmental monitor? Are they, what's the requirement there? Are they supposed to be present on site when earthwork, or are they supposed to provide reports or anything like that? Or what's the obligation?
That's a good question. I think it is in the superseding order.
Okay.
And I read it pretty quickly, and I don't have it in front of me right now.
Steve, if you could clarify that for us.
I can right now because I haven't read the entire thing either.
Okay.
But I will clarify via email, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. By the way, John, I also saw Marion McKettrick on the list just a few minutes ago, and I called her and said I would talk with her tomorrow. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Told her the same. And in fact, Clary Couteau, I see on the list right now, and she should know that we are way past number 2, a request.
I am so sorry. I apologize. It's just I'm trying to juggle between different towns and public meetings. Is there still an opportunity that we can discuss the RDA tonight?
We actually did take a vote to reconsider, and we issued a positive determination and checked off only box number 2, which will allow you to go forward. Box number 5, I think, was a reference to the utilities exemption, but the railway exemption would be included within box number 2, which will give you an exemption for the vegetation management plan. It would just require a notice of intent if there is work outside of or in addition to the vegetation management plan.
Mr. Chairman, can we discuss that? Because that is very complicated, because we had already closed the hearing with a negative determination.
You are correct.
So that would be an SDA on your end.
An SDA.
Superseding determination.
Yes.
Well, there was
DEP.
yeah, correct. So there was a motion to reconsider the issuance of the RDA with a negative, and we issued a positive.
Right, but
the second vote would be the superseding determination of applicability.
You would need to go to DEP to request a superseding order of determination, and that's a very much more complicated process. I'm sure that you have other discussions to manage, and I apologize that I really tried really hard to be available at 7:30, but really had complication with another town. Is there a possibility we can rediscuss this, and I can express to you how this procedural process would go through?
Sure you can, because we had just called 137 Bradley Road, but we don't have anybody there. So I don't mind going back to yours. The only concern that I have is that I understand what you just said, but my belief is that we are entitled to consider a motion to reconsider. And we did so. So we're not at the appellate level. We're at the what I would call the trial court level, an administrative hearing. And that's not actually a trial. I understand that. But just in terms of the hierarchy of the appellate review, we're still at the administrative level. And a motion for reconsideration is within the purview of the Conservation Commission. So we feel that we've done just that. And any appeal would be to our positive determination. But that would fall to you to go to DEP to seek a superseding order over our positive determination. But I don't see that it impacts you, and assuming that you stay within the vegetation management plan as described.
It does impact us, Mr. Chairman, because what we are required to do when you issue just a positive determination is for us to issue an NOI, and we cannot fulfill an NOI with your community and 100+ communities in addition to.
We did consider that, and that's why during our discussion, we went back to the guidance from the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, and they pointed out that you are exempt for the limited purposes of the vegetation management plan. So it's our understanding that you do not have to file for an NOI because you have a limited exemption from that for the VML, or VMP, I guess it is, Vegetation Management Plan. So it's our understanding that you do not have to do that. You would have to do it, but only if you started doing things like, mechanical tree removal. And we actually had that problem with the MBTA, not with Keolis.
So, Mr. Chairman, what did the commission vote on while I was not present?
We voted on a motion to reconsider first, and that was passed unanimously. There was a second motion to return a positive determination on the Keolis request for determination of applicability, and that passed unanimously as well.
And the second motion was specifically addressing what?
The request for determination of applicability filed by Keolis.
Was it a 2A, 2B?
It's whatever you filed. we went back to the original determination. So we were operating on the basis of the application which you filed, whether it's 2A or 2B, I can't tell you. I don't know.
Okay.
We were considering the same request that you initially presented at our last meeting.
So the underlying reason for you to rescind or retract or change the original negative determination was what?
Well,
it's all concerned with box number 5, John. Remember box number 5?
Yes, that was not applicable, as Hans was appropriately able to point out. And that box number 5 actually applies to utilities, not
necessarily.
Well,
no.
Anyway, you asked me, you can ask for another motion for reconsideration and see if anybody would proffer such a motion, which, you're free to do that, certainly. But
I think there's a lot of confusion, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. There's a lot of confusion with all the commissions. When you issue a positive determination, whether it's approval of the site boundaries or not, for the work that's being handled and managed, as we described and as we determined, it still requires us to do an NOI. So, the guidance issued by MAC and MSCMP is only a guidance. It's not a regulatory mandated policy change. That is something that at the state level, just for clarification purposes and for the record, that's at the policy level, legislature level, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of State level decision to make. What I really want the commission to understand is you have 1/10 of a mile worth of jurisdiction areas. We maintain those mechanically and chemically. We won't go beyond any part of the property boundary lines that we own. We manage those in an integrated vegetation management approach. However, within your jurisdiction, you have no spray zones. Those no spray zones mean that we need to cut. And I remember and I recall that I went through this with you and the commission in the past. When you issue a positive determination, just a positive.
So we asked, one second, we asked if there was mechanical removal associated with this, and you said there was not.
Only on the areas that require it. So the vegetation management plan.
Not in resource areas.
In resource areas, even more so, because you don't want chemicals in those resource areas, Mr. Hans.
You must. Mr. Van Lingen, but so I'm pretty sure that I actually asked this question specifically, and we can go back to that. If it did include mechanical removal, and you indicated that it would not, that it was just utilizing the specialized equipment with the overspray moving through, and that there was not. So your IVMP should be just for the application of the herbicides. So that's the DAR application. The any mechanical removal is separate from that, correct?
No, actually, I would have never mentioned that, because one of the key reasons for me being present in your meeting is to explicitly explain the relationship between mechanical and herbicide. So I am going to pull up your map. And your map is 1/10 of a mile stretch.
We actually had the map up during our discussion earlier. We're pretty familiar.
And I'm so sorry. I really wanted to be present for the discussion. I'm really sorry. If you think this is out of line and out of turn, I understand. Is it possible for me to share the map?
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And again, I really wanted to be present for your discussion in a timely manner, but I've had
we understand that.
Okay, good.
I still think that you know, maybe I'm jumping ahead, and I won't cut you off because you're certainly entitled to make an argument, but you would have to, because of the status of the vote, the 2 votes that we had today, you would have to convince some commissioner to to propose a motion to reconsider yet again. And that would be seconded, there would be discussion and a vote on that. But
can I just read something for you real quick? So just to be clear, the Department of Agricultural Resources, the Vegetation Management Plan, pursuant to the rights-of-way management regulations, in order to apply pesticides to control vegetation to maintain rights-of-way, the Department of Agricultural Resources must approve a vegetation management plan and a yearly operational plan. The VMP is intended to justify the need to control vegetation, identify target vegetation, describe intended methods of control, describe methods for identifying sensitive areas, describe operational guidelines for applicators, outline program of integrated pest management designed to reduce the use of herbicides. It says nothing about mechanical removal. This has to do with regulating the applicator. So it's not your yearly operational plan.
No.
Mechanical.
Mr. Van Lingen, you just read it. The integrated pest management plan is actually a combination of alternatives for vegetation control. The objective and the whole objective of the integrated vegetation management plan, or the IPM, integrated pest management plan, is to reduce.
DAR approves.
Yeah, well, DAR does approve that. This is Janice Kearney from the MBTA. It does include mechanical. The integrated vegetation management plan does include mechanical. And it has included mechanical for the MBTA historically for the past 20 years. We have cut trees mechanically for vegetated management.
Wait a minute. Now, if the MBTA is going to get involved in this, one thing I'm really clear about is that the MBTA was not part of the RDA. It was Keolis only. And that determination that we made last month did not include the T, because I'm sitting on and have read today, I read the consent agreement signed by Andrew Brennan that because of inappropriate mechanical cutting of trees 10 years ago, the MBTA agreed to pay to Milton and Boston $15,000 and 40 hours of labor to plant the trees that we were going to buy with the $15,000. So the T does not have good standing at this point.
Mr. Chairman, Janice, if I may,
exactly
Mr. Chairman,
we are limiting. You won't cut off the chairman. That's exactly why we're limiting it to the vegetation management plan, and we're not going to allow any further mechanical removal of trees unless there's a notice of intent.
Well, Mr. Chairman, no,
stay separate from the MBTA right now.
Okay, I'm aware, and I apologize for whatever the historic agreement that you have, and I know that came up. We were before you, I think, 2 years ago for our VMP on the subway side, not with Keolis, and the same topic came up, and I believe Holly Palmgren was also on that meeting. And if you can send me the agreement that you have with Andrew, I give you my word. I will look into what happened with that. That's what I keep asking. I was not working in my position when that occurred with Milton. I have heard about it. I have not seen that agreement. So I'm offering you, if you have that, please email it to me and I will resurrect it and try to make sure that it's addressed.
I pulled it out of the file today and emailed it to Steve Ivis. So Steve, you can forward it.
Please, I beg you to send that to me, and I will run that down. Not that I want to, but I will. I will absolutely run it down.
And that's good, Steve. I'll send you Janice's. Janice is the Assistant General Counsel and also the Compliance Manager for MBTA. She works very closely with me. Two things. I want to steer us back to commuter rail because subway is subway, commuter
Yes.
rail is commuter rail. But Mr. Chairman, I've heard Mr. Van Lingen's, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize.
That's all right.
I've heard his concerns. The integrated pest management approach is derived by the objective of reducing over time chemicals applied so that we can sustainably manage vegetation controls. So it is absolutely integral for the IPM or the IDM, which is the same thing, to be inclusive of mechanical and chemical and whenever practicable, natural controls like goats or other things that can be utilized. Unfortunately, along the railroad, we cannot have goats because they end up under the train tracks and they become incidents, right? So we have to manage mechanical and chemical. That's a given fact. What has happened in the past, and that's what I explained to you in the previous meeting, is we haven't been good as a commuter rail to explain this to all of our commissioners. They really didn't know that the RDA process and the maps that you see, if it's a no spraying, it means we cut, because if we cannot spray, we cut. So those are two parallel coinciding activities. So I understand your position. I understand the MAC's position, but what I really want you to understand is the following. The MAC guidance is a guidance. It's not a policy. It's not a regulatory requirement. It's a guidance. The MBTA, the MassDOT, the Secretary of Transportation, and the Secretary of State, and the commissioners up there, somewhere 5 layers above my head, are dealing with that. That's going to take at least 12 to 18 months to resolve. In the time being, what I really need you to understand is we are going to cut and we're going to maintain the right of way, but we're going to do it sustainably. I'm telling you what we're doing. We're spraying in these areas. We're not spraying in this area, and we're cutting in these areas, and that's what we're doing. And on a yearly basis, you receive a yearly operating plan, which you have 45 days to comment back to me and tell me, Clary, what are you doing in this area? And that 45-day comment period, you have it every year within the VMP process. So when you issue a positive determination, whether it's for the VMP or any other project within your jurisdiction, what happens next? They need to file an NOI. So what am I going to file to you? I can't file an NOI because, number one, I don't know when I need to cut necessarily. I can't tell you if I'm going to cut here, what alternatives or feasibility I have to that, because if we need to cut, we need to cut. So
are you cutting in wetlands?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because we cannot spray, Mr. Van Lingen. We cannot spray in those wetlands. We have to cut.
Okay, I understand that. What sort of controls are you using when accessing vegetation within wetlands?
What we do is we limit the disturbance to the ground. So for example, we use the ANSI A300, which is a method for determining what trees are at high risk.
Okay.
And if the trees within that wetland area encroach upon the right-of-way, we can trim, but depending on the tree and the tree conditions, it might be an invasive species. It can be a black locust. It can be, you know.
How do you access those trees? Do you walk in?
By high rail. So they use equipment by high rail, and they
so
cut.
It's a separate piece of equipment that is used to go in and pick the trees to the full length of the right of way.
Correct. So our guys, our arborists will go out. They will tag the trees, and they will determine whether a trimming is okay or whether the entire branch needs to be cut back. So it's very selective. What we steer away is from having to disturb the wetland area. So it's all airlifted. We pull it and we chip it, and it has to be chipped within 25 feet of any resource area marked up.
So chipped outside of resource areas?
Correct. 25 feet of any resource area. Correct.
And when you take down the trees, are you taking them, sorry, if you are taking down trees, entire trees, are they taken down to the base?
We need to leave the stump because it's an erosion control measure. So we take it down to the base as low as we can. And we leave the root systems and everything else so that it contains the soils within that.
What, if any, additional state permits are required to do that work?
No state requirements at this point. Okay. That's all under the VMP.
So typically, tree removal in wetlands would fall under a 401 water quality cert.
Not necessarily.
I believe so.
Yes, I would agree with that, Hans.
Yeah. And so,
why would it be a 401 water quality cert?
So,
what are the thresholds that you feel that we exceed in that sort?
You'll have to give me a minute to do my research, but
go ahead.
Possibility of soil in the resource area being affected.
We're not disturbing the soil. We're not affecting the soil.
How are you getting to the trees in the resource area?
It's all airlift.
With large what?
So you're saying there's no earth disturbance?
No disturbance.
This sounds to me like a discussion that would be appropriate for a notice of intent. I know that you don't want to 351 notices of intent. I understand that.
So I think we can work with her to avoid a notice of intent. But I think that it's going to require a little bit more homework to verify.
You want me to show you a picture of how we do the work?
Is it a boom type arrangement?
I'm sorry?
Is it a boom arrangement? A boom?
It's really highly complicated equipment, high rail equipment. It's all airlifted.
How do you mean airlifted? How do they lift it? Is it a claw?
It's a claw, and the guys, when they mark up.
Okay. And this is when you have a wetland inside your right-of-way, is that correct?
So the yellow zones, the no spray zones, require us to oblige with a removal of any vegetation that encroaches upon the right-of-way. And in limited spray zones, it's the same, because if we cannot spray within a specific time frame, we need to cut back. So some areas, and I'm going to try and pull up your map. You have limited spray zones and yellow zones. You have 2 yellow zones and 2 limited spray zones. In those areas, what we would prefer to do, if in any event, is to do mechanical activities rather than spray. The only areas that would permanently be sprayed are the roadbed, because there is no other alternative of mechanical means for the control of vegetation in those areas. But for all the other areas within that 1/10 of a mile stretch within your community, we would do preferably the maintenance activities via mechanical. There's a lot in that stretch. There is a lot of brush control. Not many trees left in that area. So it's mostly brush control, and that can be done 2 ways. If the areas are wet, we don't spray, and then we come back and cut back.
Can you see that on the screen?
No. I'm still concerned that all this entire discussion is going towards listing types of special conditions that would be appropriate for a notice of intent. So I'm still not convinced that there is not good grounds for a notice of intent, and all of these issues could be addressed with specificity and listed as part of the notice of intent. You may think it's cumbersome, but I think it's appropriate because the guidance, I know it's not a legal decision, it's not binding on us, it's a guidance from the Association of Conservation Commissions. So with that guidance, I would suggest that a notice of intent is entirely appropriate so that we could list out these special conditions. And then everybody would know what's going to happen. Now you may say, oh, we need to have field judgment because when we get there, we don't know when we're going. We don't know if there's going to be big trees or little trees. If you were part of this hearing tonight, you heard the last applicant or enforcement order person that had taken out a, 100, 200-year-old oak tree. If the trees have to come out, then you're going to know which ones they are, because it's not going to be something that's going to grow up over the springtime. It's going to be there, 10 or 15 years. So you're going to see it and you can mark it and say, oh, that's going to come out. We could make that part of a notice of intent. And that seems to be the appropriate course. And I'm not convinced that further detailed discussion at this point is something that we could put into a negative RDA. And I'm not inclined to reconsider once again and then issue a negative. But I would be inclined to consider everything that you're saying and make it part of a notice of intent. We need to control or have some influence over the mechanical removal of trees. And that, you can tell it sticks in my craw what our experience was with the MBTA. It happened twice. Once on the chemical controls on the banks between Elliott Street and the Walter Baker Chocolate area between Central Avenue and Adams Street. That was a disaster. And then the other instance was about 10 years ago, and that was mechanical removal of trees that never should have been removed. And the T agreed to it. That's why we need it as part of a condition in a note on an order of conditions. And I'd like to hear from the other commissions, because this kind of a discussion could go on all night.
Right.
We're going to have to convince somebody to vote favorably on 2 motions, 1 to reconsider again, and 2 to issue a negative. And
so, Mr. Chairman, if I may, you voted to close the hearing last time, and you issued a -5 determination, correct?
Right.
So are you proposing to do an SDA?
No, we proposed and did a motion for reconsideration, and we issued it in public session, and we gave you notice of it. If there is an appellate right that you have, then you should pursue it. It would be you that could seek the superseding order from DEP. We don't have to change it. Yeah, we don't have to appeal it. You do, if you're dissatisfied with what we've done tonight, unless you can convince the other commissioners. And I'm speaking only for myself.
Well, what was the basis for the notice to rescind? What was the basis for that?
We had several of them. One of them was the going out beyond what we believe to be the vegetation management plan, which, as Hans pointed out, we understood to be chemical only. Now, I've heard tonight, Larry, you've been very articulate in saying, well, if we can't do it by chemical, then we'd have to do it by mechanical. But that certainly wasn't my understanding when we discussed it at the last meeting. Hans, it didn't sound like it was your understanding. So that's one issue. Another issue is that the wrong box was checked. And I can't even tell you if it was on the application or if it was on the result, but we don't think that the utility exemptions apply for the railroad. We think the railroad exemption applies. And we think as long as you stick with the chemical controls in conformance with the DAR, then you don't have to file a motion, a notice of intent. If you want to do the mechanical that you've articulately described how it's done in the wetlands, where the chipping is going to take place, I believe that that should be part of a notice of intent.
Okay, so just for the record and to clarify, this commission voted to issue a motion to reconsider the decision made previously for negative determination, for a positive determination.
That was a second vote. There were two separate votes.
Are we going to get, I don't need to, will we, I apologize for not being able to be here for that discussion on that what you discussed. I don't understand, I still don't understand if there was a misunderstanding on what the VMP included or what Milton thought. That's not a mutual mistake. And that's, I mean, a mutual mistake is grounds for to reconsider something or rescind something. That would be a unilateral misunderstanding on Milton's part. But so I'm still back on the the ability of the Conservation Commission to rescind what was issued back in September. But all that aside, will we receive a Form 2, a timely Form 2 from tonight's? Since we didn't receive anything from September's, I'm in this gray area.
Well, it's even grayer because we did not understand that the T was part of the Keolis request.
Well, you have to understand that T owns the property we manage.
Yeah, they're my operator.
I know all about who owns the tracks, who owns the equipment, who leases the stations. I know that inside out and backwards. So I'm well aware of it. And I was very, very acutely aware of whether or not the T filed the RDA because of the past history.
So this is Mr. Chairman. Let me clarify. I'm entrusted. I have signatory privileges on behalf of the MBTA and MassDOT to execute the 400 plus permits that I applied for on behalf of the commuter rail. So that being said, the owner of the commuter rail, the property owner, is the MBTA. I always work closely related to MBTA. That's why Janice is here tonight. But that set aside, I want to be very clear that when you issued in September 15, your decision to close the meeting and your decision to issue a negative determination, you had up to October 10th to issue a Form 2. You didn't issue that. And to that extent, today we're meeting to kind of reassess, and you're telling me that you're going to rescind, or you're going to retract, or you're going to amend or change your decision, your previous recorded public meeting decision. And what Janice and I are trying to understand, what's the reasoning behind that? Because within the September 15 meeting, if I pull up the records of the public meeting, I was very clear, and Matt Donovan was very clear that it was an integrated vegetation management approach. And that was what we approached in the RDA, and that is what we discussed with this commission. Whether you have a history with MBTA or not, that should not be part of this RDA decision. That would be arbitrary. So that being said, I respect your decision. I respect your concerns in terms of the guidance document that MAC sent out and MSCMP sent out. I also issued an email with our position towards that. The policy.
Thank you very much.
And the policy changes at the legislative level will happen, 12, 18 months, maybe 2 years from now. But the time being, this is what's going to happen with the railroad. We have a federal requirement to ensure the safety of our passengers, the community, and the employees. If I have to go out there and cut a tree, Mr. Chairman, I will not ask permission to cut that tree, because if it's a public safety issue, it will take precedence. However, what I will be able to say, if it's not an emergency situation, because like 2, 3, 4, 5 days ago when we had the microburst, we had over, 100 acres and 16 incidents throughout the entire state of tree incidents that came down. That was emergency. But on a planned event, each commission, each town has an opportunity every year to come back to me and tell me, Clary, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? This is what we're doing. You have 45 days every year. Each town, each board of selectmen, each board of health. That's even beyond anything that a notice of intent could actually oblige us to do. So we're offering the opportunity for each commission to come back to us with questions every year. So
first of all, we're not talking public safety emergencies. That's not before us. We understand completely public safety emergencies. Secondly, you could file a notice of intent tomorrow morning. It's not. It's not a delay attack.
I will not do that, Mr. Chairman. I cannot do a notice of intent every time I'm going to go out there and do maintenance activities. I will not do that. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because it's a precedence that goes beyond 5,000 acres of maintenance activity for a lawfully located structure in the service of the public. Understood. I cannot do that.
We serve the public as well. So let me, I don't mean to cut it short, but we are, we spent a lot of time on this. Let me actually call for a motion to see whether or not there's someone that would like to put forth a motion for a reconsideration of what we did earlier tonight. That is to reconsider our positive determination that we voted upon earlier tonight. Is there any commission member that would like to make that motion? I don't hear anyone. Hans, do you want to make the motion? Yeah. I'm going through this to make sure that there's no suggestion that we're trying to steamroll this. Does anybody wish to make the motion? And if you do, go ahead and make the motion. I'm not going to make it.
So I believe the information that's being presented is somewhat accurate, and it's not just being presented appropriately. I think this does qualify under an exemption, and I think there's just a misunderstanding in terms of the nuances of the overlying regs. Unfortunately, I don't have the information in front of me right now to be able to 100% justify either direction. But it's at the end of the day, the consideration that we had earlier was to allow the work to proceed.
What work?
Without the vegetation maintenance work to proceed without the filing of a notice of intent. Mm-hmm. That was our finding today.
September 15th.
Well, it was just excluding the mechanical aspect.
That's the difference. So that it was only the chemical application that we had essentially approved via the negative determination.
And so let me ask you this, Is the mechanical maintenance required this year, or can it be deferred for a year? Or when would be your next cycle of returning to addressing this, this aspect of it?
Is that question for me?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so recently, you know that we went throughout the entire state doing PTC removal of vegetation, right? So it's a cyclical methodology, right? We remove the vegetation. Right now, we're doing the chemical applications where we can, and we're cutting back and maintaining the successional growth.
Mm-hmm.
So what I anticipate is the massive, you know, the removal of vegetation is going to be on a cyclical process. So
when was the last time it occurred?
I think the last time we went through your jurisdiction was maybe 2018. I would have to go back to my books. I'm not quite sure. So what we have been doing is maintaining the brush down and applying chemicals. So what we want to do ideally is to control the vegetation from encroaching onto the right of way. That is the sole purpose of the integrated vegetation management plan. And like I mentioned before, I would much rather do mechanical than chemical application any day, because I'm an environmental scientist and that's what I believe in. But
so as am I, and so I understand what you're saying. I guess the bigger question is, do you anticipate removal of trees within the wetland? Trees, DBH 5-6 inches or greater, or will it be something that you would just limb back? I mean, can you do a dialed back version of this work that would meet us halfway in this, that we can get into the cycle of the VMP comments, and then also we can address this in the formal way going forward and try to find, and this is just what I'm proposing. I don't know if the other commission members are going to agree with me or not, but maybe a limited scope in terms of just brush removal as necessary, and not, it's really the thing I'm having a bit of heartache about is actual tree removal within the wetlands.
And I understand that's the crux of the problem, right?
Yep. And so at the end of the day, it may be exempt work, which commissions such as ours often have difficulty with understanding the nuances of. But you know, is that something that could be accomplished here or considered here for this go around? Or I guess my question's for John at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And I see the head shaking.
That's why I said it's appropriate for an order of conditions following a notice of intent. And I think last September, you said that you weren't even thinking about beginning this until next May. You could file a notice of intent tomorrow. And we're not going to hesitate to work with you. We just need to control the removal of trees. And there are lots of reasons, and I don't need to reiterate them here, but we've been burned before. And we don't want to have it again, so we'd like to put it into an order of conditions. And I don't think that's appropriate. You've made some great arguments today, and they'd be appropriate for a DEP appeal.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to come back to you. Let's say if this were to be an ideal situation, right? And mind you, I know you're just focused on Milton, but remind you that I have over 5,000 acres to manage. And let me just say this as a situation, right? You have 2 wetlands, 2 yellow no spray zones in your area, 1/10 of a mile of area. right? And the rest is limited spray zone, which is every other year, depending on the physical characteristics of your jurisdictional areas. So let's say we need to maintain those yellow no spray zones cut back. If I have to go back to you every year for a notice of intent to cut back the trees, what would be the most feasible alternative for us to cut back trees? Is there any other feasible alternative within an NOI process that I can manage?
So
There's
doesn't
none.
the Granite Links have a similar?
No. So if I have to cut the tree, Mr. Chairman, I have to cut the tree. I have to trim the tree.
Me whether or not you can limb trees as part of a maintenance plan, or you ask me if you can remove trees that are, of significant DBH. That's what our problem is. So,
we're talking about general maintenance activities, right? If it's an emergency, it's an emergency. I'm going to send my crews out to cut the trees regardless. Like last week, we had hundreds of trees down on the tracks. They're going to go out there and do that. But as a planned maintenance activity, what am I going to propose to you as an alternative or feasible alternative to cutting those and trimming those trees down? We just need to trim them and cut them back. And it's the same process that I'm already presenting to you through the VMP. This is how it's going to be done.
Look, we've talked tonight about mechanical removal of trees, not limbing, not maintaining, not trimming. We're talking about, you say by implication that your vegetation management plan, although it's designed to be, chemical application, by implication, it includes mechanical removal of trees. That's not appropriate for us. We want to know what you're taking out and why and when.
Okay, so then you need to present that in a motion and issue the motion appropriately.
We don't need to do anything. We've already taken the motion. So I'm going to, once again, does anybody on the commission wish to propose a motion to reconsider our vote earlier today? Because if there is no motion, then we've nothing to do. So I ask one more time, does anyone of the commissioners want to make a motion to reconsider our earlier ruling tonight? I don't hear anybody. So if there's no motion to reconsider, then the vote stands from earlier this evening. I'm sorry.
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, when will we receive the vote from September 15th and then also the votes from early this evening?
At this juncture, you'll probably get them at the same time.
Well, you have two Form 2s.
Two Form 2s, and I need to do an appeal. So that's something procedural.
Yeah, everybody on the Zoom call knows that we're doing this remotely. So when you're actually going to get it, I actually don't know, because we all have to get to town hall or have a meeting to sign this, and we will do it in due course. Is there anything?
I think I have presented to the commission with transparency what the vegetation management plan is, what we intend to do, and how we do the work. And with all respect, I believe that, since July, you had a 21-day process. You issued a closing of the meeting in September 15th. You issued a negative determination. You reopened the session. Hopefully you did that. You reopened the session and you closed it again, rescinding and retracting and amending the decision made in September 15th. I'm just going to respectfully request that we have a Form 2 issued to us that explains that detail, because this is unprecedented, Mr. Chairman. I've been working with commissions for years, and this is unprecedented. And I understand that you have your concerns about the vegetation management plan, that you have concerns about MBTA doing X, Y, but ultimately, this is about the safety of the Commonwealth. And I am an essential government worker. I hold a responsibility over the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and what we do and what we don't do. And I come to you respectfully explaining that. And, you know, at the same time, I understand your jurisdictional priorities, but this is unprecedented. I've never seen anything like this. So I respectfully request that we have a Form 2 issued within the proper time being so that we can either, you know, like Janice mentioned, we can appeal or we can, you know, do whatever needs to be done on a legal matter. My objective in my program is going to be the same, Mr. Chairman. We're going to continue doing the work that we need to do to maintain the public safe, your community safe, and the environment safe. But at the time being, I feel like this has been very, very, very arbitrary on the process, and I am not happy. Simply because it's been very, very difficult. It's been very difficult across the board.
Been very respectful, and we appreciate that.
I know.
And we've had people waiting for other business on our agenda tonight.
Correct.
Thank you very much. We'll issue
Chairman, I just wanted to say that the soonest we can get a signature actually is probably the 24th of October. Hopefully we'll have a quorum at that date, just for Clary's information and Janice's information. That's the first time that the commission will be in the field together to be able to sign. So I believe that the governor has allowed additional time for signatures of these forms. Check me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong on that one, please.
Well, I have no objection going down and signing papers before the 24th.
Jerry, say that again. I didn't hear you.
I said I will be glad to go down to the DPW yard and sign whatever documents can be made available as soon as they can. I don't know how others feel, but that would get possibly, if everybody did that, that would get them what they need before the 24th.
I'll do the same.
As will I.
All right.
Okay, you'll have it before then. All right. I thank you very much for everybody's patience, and again, I do appreciate your courtesy and the respectful nature in which you've presented your arguments.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we're now back to the enforcement order of 137 Bradley Road, and I don't think anybody's in attendance on that. So can you get us up to speed on this, Steve?
Yes, you probably saw that photo. I was down at the latest, probably I visited this site, I don't know, maybe.
Clary, here's what I want.
Oh, okay. She was still on the line, evidently. That's why Hans is laughing. But in any case, I'm sorry. Where was I? I've been to the site
photos
a half a dozen times. I've spoken with the gentleman on the phone. I've spoken with him in person. I've spoken with the realtor. And the last time that he did anything was about a month ago, where he took some of the material away and then covered the rest up. It didn't make any sense. And the photo that I showed you, the latest photo, is me taking my boot, scraping away the top, 1 or 2 inches of soil, and then showing, all the junk that's underneath. And then he has the letter that says something about $300 a day. So, fine, with the enforcement order, please come to our meeting tonight. Guess what? That's what I'm going to suggest. You folks assign at least a fine. This has been going on since May, by the way. This is not a new item.
It has, but the original enforcement order was for something different. And didn't we say to him that he had to remove the debris pile that was next to the fence?
Yes.
Which I thought he did.
No, he removed some of it, half of it, but not all of it. Very simply.
Steve, what about the debris that was further up the line?
Further up the line, it's all gone.
It's all gone.
Right. I-beams, concrete, you name it. This is about 30 feet by about 2 feet of concrete, brick, slate, and other demolition debris.
So
Right.
what I'm suggesting.
Something.
Say again.
He did do something.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes.
I think we should take that into consideration, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, he did the majority of the work.
I agree, but I also think that we should give a directive. A fine is, I'm sure, appropriate, but more importantly, let's get that construction debris out of there and put in some legitimate topsoil. I think that would, the homeowner who's ever going to purchase the property would certainly want that as well. So I would suggest that the enforcement order be reissued. Oh, first of all, let me back up. Do we have this enforcement order recorded at the Registry of Deeds?
I believe that Kathy has recorded this one, yes. And I will check on that.
Because we want to make sure that it impacts the sale, so that if there is an issue of cost, that there'd be some escrow arrangement between the seller and the buyer, because we don't want to stick an unsuspecting buyer with a fine.
Exactly, yes.
We want to make sure that the developer, the person that's flipping the house, is going to take care of things. So I would say that we should issue another enforcement order with a specific directive that I don't know how deep it goes, but that construction debris should be removed. And
to the natural soil layer. That's as simple as that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Steve, I missed that.
I was suggesting removing it to the natural soil layer.
That's fine. Which we identified by looking at the two sides of the fence when we did the site walk there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And John, what would you think about giving a date by which it should be executed, after which subject to fine?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. And just from a construction point of view, I would suggest that it should be removed within a week or 10 days or 5 days. I'm not sure, but within
10 work days.
How many?
10 work days. How's that?
Okay with me. And at that point, failure to do so will result in a $300 a day fine. Now, I don't want to suggest that a past fine is not appropriate. So I think it should be clear that the commission reserves the right to impose a fine for past activities. But in terms of the future, a failure to remove the construction debris down to the natural soil layer, or to provide topsoil if necessary, then that should be done within the 10 work days. And failure to do so will result in an additional $300 per day.
And we actually did talk with him about stabilizing the soil. And he said, we can't stabilize it right now. It's too dry. And I said, well, put some jute matting on it, is what my comment was. That will stabilize it for the moment. And then when the fall rains come, as they have tonight, then you have seed that you can put down.
Anybody else have feeling on either the removal or the fine or the timing of the fine? Wendy, you look like you're going to say something.
Nope, I'm good, John. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody, Ingrid?
I agree with you.
I agree, John.
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 days, working days to remove the fill. At that point, $300 a day for failure to do so. And we reserve the right to impose a fine for past violations.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
Sounds good.
Now, I'll record that as a consensus.
Well, if you want to have a motion to do that, to vote for it? Why don't we do that? A motion to impose a directive and a prospective fine reserving the right for a prior fine as well. Is there such a motion?
Anybody?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, there's your unanimous vote, Steve.
Great, thanks. At 10:06, I've got that, okay.
Now we've got 175 Governor Stoughton Lane, so I'll recuse myself from that. I'll walk out, and if somebody can text me. Jerry, you're the texter. Can you do that? Thanks.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah, that should be enough. Did you all see the email from Mr. Thompson saying okay with the lighting?
Yes.
Okay. Frankly, I want to tell you that I am satisfied with that email.
As am I.
Okay. I see some other fingers, thumbs up. Ingrid, are you okay with that? You're on mute, sorry.
So yeah, sorry. I saw it earlier. I'm just trying to pull it up again. Can you quickly forward it to me?
I'll
search here.
Actually, I could probably put it on the screen, because I think I have it on the screen here. A possibility.
Again. Yeah.
Let's see. Where are we? We're at 13 October, and that was the electrical systems plans approved. Okay, so as soon as I can figure out, this Zoom is very cumbersome, actually.
10-5, you mean?
This is Monday, July 27th, 2020. And then it has, hang on, let me just get it up on the screen here. If I can do that. Come on, share screen. Let's see. All right, this is what I'd like to share with you folks. Can you see part of that yet?
No.
No, I can't see it.
Okay. How's that?
There it goes.
Okay. There's the memo from John Thompson, Friday, April 14th, 2017. Okay. Jack Calabro and I have reviewed the street lighting plan and details provided and are okay with what is proposed. There it is.
But Steve, my question is that Mr. Thompson is referring to a PDF that shows the lights that he is approving.
Right.
But I don't see anywhere that PDF. I don't understand what it is that Mr. Thompson is actually approving.
Yeah, and I don't have that PDF right here at hand. Shall we take this and move it over to the 24th?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Fine. Secondly, we have a letter from the Milton Woods Homeowners Association. You should have had that in your package. Did you see the letter?
Yes.
Yes.
And we had asked, I think Hans, you had asked for a letter to tell people that, you know, your lots are within limits of jurisdiction of the Concom. And
yeah, more specifically, it was asked that we get a better understanding from how the association is being currently managed.
Okay, well, we don't have that, but we have a letter.
Okay.
The association is being currently managed by Pulte. That's it. I think that's the, you know, by this Matthew R. Coppa.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's the answer to your question there.
It's not, but it is an answer.
Right, it is an answer. Did you want to ask the question again in a different way?
No, that's okay.
Okay. So we do have the letter, and it's clear, to me at least. Is it clear to everyone?
So
I don't
just
see any objections.
yeah, where does the CR stand on that land? Is that what are the next steps with the conservation restriction there?
I do not know what the next steps are. I know I was supposed to do some descriptions, and I was waiting for a call back from Mike Rosati regarding putting out some locational posts or something on the sites, so you could take pictures from each point to document the trees that are on the site. So let me follow up with that, all right?
Okay, I think that'll help facilitate some of that.
Yes. Okay, very good. I'm doing the same thing on another big project over in Littleton, so I can run that parallel, all right? That's what we're doing. We're selecting photographic points and then describing the forest and what it looks like, existing conditions, okay?
Okay.
Why don't we text John back?
Sure.
Okay, I just did it.
Okay. And I guess we're on to the proposed tree policy again.
$500 per tree.
Yes, that's exactly right. I think that's what we were waiting for, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Good. Are we on to tree policy?
Yes.
Hi.
You want to, John, on where we came out with Pulte?
What's that?
We're going to continue. Was it on the 24th?
Yes.
Just so that John knows ahead of time.
Yes, we'll do that at the
site visit.
We'll do that at the end of the meeting, okay?
Okay, good.
We don't need to go out there.
No.
Oh, I see. It'll just be a discussion.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So we're back on the proposed tree policy, correct?
Correct.
Appropriate. And let me ask Hans, as kind of the primary author of this, and I know others have worked on it as well, but what do you think about the linear criteria for replacement? I mean, it came up tonight, and it's an appropriate discussion.
The big old hole in my method.
Very big hole.
Yeah, I welcome any alternate language in that assessment method.
I feel like we could maybe enhance the linear requirement with the something along the lines of Newton's DBH requirement.
Makes very good sense, Wendy.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, trees grow taller a heck of a lot faster than they grow wide.
Yes.
And I feel like if all we're looking at is the height of a tree, then, you know, say we're looking to replace a 100-foot tall tree that happens to be 300 years old. Well, you know, that could easily, if we're just looking at the height of the tree, we could be looking at, you know, 5 scrawny but tall saplings. And I don't feel like that's that's an adequate replacement by any stretch.
Okay.
So Steve, can you just go back and recite for us the Newton approach?
As I understand it, what it is, it's a 1-to-1 DBH requirement. So if a tree, for example, was 39 inches, divide 3 inches, DBH per tree, and you get 13 trees of 3 DBH, measurement. I think it's a good rule of thumb,
mm-hmm.
and it works. I think it would work fine.
It's probably simpler.
Pardon?
It's probably simpler than my approach.
Oh yeah, much simpler. Yeah, it doesn't require you to do any sighting or anything.
Clinometer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Even though they work very well, they work extremely well. But you have to have another long ruler with you or a tape measure.
Yeah, I won't force science on too many people.
We like science, Hans. Well, what if we did something like suggested both replacement
I'm
policies?
fine with the language from Newton. I mean, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, and realize that that's third hand. But I was talking with another wetland scientist actually about Newton. And that's what he told me. And that's a pretty simple concept. I'm not sure how we could get it wrong.
Confirmation too, Steve.
What's that?
It would be an easy confirmation with the Newton Concom.
Of course.
And tell us whether or not they've kept that in place or they've revised it or anything of that nature.
Fine. Why don't I take that as an action item, okay?
All right, good.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, and we'll discuss that on the 24th too, all right? We can discuss it at least.
Okay.
And Steve, if you could just confirm when you speak with the agent, if it is 1-to-1 DBH replacement for all size trees or just certain size trees?
Sure. Good question, Wendy. Very good question. Shall do. Thank you. On to additional business.
Yes.
I have, I would like, maybe we should read it into the record. Ned's email that I sent around tonight, very late tonight. What do you think, John?
Yeah, that's fine. Just that, I think that's a good way of putting it on the record.
Yeah, that's what I figured with the public. This email says, "Hi, Steve. As I understand, the commission's agenda this evening does not include a formal presentation of Milton Academy's Gun Hill Street property. I wanted to write so that you may advise the commission of the school's plans to address the issues recently identified that are proximate to Unquity Brook. As you know, Milton Academy's Director of Facilities, Services, and Associate Director of Grounds met with the commission on site Saturday, September 26, 2020, at the commission's request. During that visit, the commission noted concerns with how the area was being managed. As a result, the school contracted with Williams and Sparagus, LLC, to assist and ensure that its Gun Hill Street property is fully compliant from a conservation standpoint. Greg Hotchmuth will take the lead for W&S. Greg has worked with Milton Academy in the past, in fact, on this site, parenthetically, that's my comment, and has provided assistance to the school on its successful work regarding invasive species management around O'Hare Pond, which is adjacent to the school's track. We visited O'Hare Pond, by the way, recently. To follow up on the September meeting, Greg met with you at Milton Academy's Gun Hill parcel on October 6th, 2020, to inspect the area and perform a joint review. During the inspection, Greg observed at least 3 areas where the slope above the resource areas appears to be failing from what appears to be landscaping, debris, decomposition. It is our understanding that the area in question has traditionally been used by Milton Academy as a storage area for landscaping debris from its campus. It appears that over time, The material has piled up in an area that is within the jurisdictional areas of the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and Milton Wetlands Bylaws, Chapter 15, more specifically within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and the 200-foot riverfront area associated with Unquity Brook. It was not the school's intention to allow this situation to occur, as the school has been and remains committed to managing multiple aspects of its property that require conservation-related attention. To inform further next steps, Greg is now working with Milton Academy to delineate the jurisdictional wetland resource areas, prepare a resource area restoration plan, and to file a notice of intent application with both the Milton Conservation Commission and Mass DEP. W&S plans to have the wetlands resource areas delineated in the next couple of weeks, with the survey work following shortly thereafter. Greg will prepare and we will assist the Academy in filing the notice of intent for a hearing to commence at either the Commission's December or January meeting. We expect to arrive at a solid plan with the Commission in time for remedial work to begin as soon as practical next spring. Please let us know if you would like a progress update for the November meeting. We look forward to working with you and the Commission to address and resolve the issues identified at Unquity Brook. Ned Corcoran. I would like to suggest that we reply back and say, sure, a progress update is always great.
Well, I have a couple of questions. Is there anyone from Milton Academy attending this meeting now?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so
Sean, do you see anybody? Hey, let me just check the participants. Okay. Roy Chambers, I don't know who that is. Anybody know who Roy Chambers is?
No.
Well,
John? No?
No, sir.
Well, I have a couple of comments. One is their characterization as a storage area. It looked more to me like a landfill. So I don't see how they can, what they're doing is dumping their landscape, dead trees, grass, et cetera, to the tune of about 5 or 6 feet depth. Is that how you, am I right in you share my observations, everyone who was there?
I do.
Okay. So then we also issued a C&D. Has that been sent, and how is that going to play out for the next several months?
I don't have any confirmation, Jerry, that C&D has been sent yet.
Well, why?
I suggest you talk to the office. It was in my notes of our site meeting, and I'm told that Kathy completely missed it.
Well, you talked to her last week, though, Steve, didn't you?
I did. And last week she was, I must say, and I will confirm that she was busy on other issues for the DPW because of the downbursts.
Okay, that's very disappointing to me, because it's also, when we were there, we were talking about a 100-foot buffer zone, and that now has changed to 200 feet. And I was there again today.
That's actually in our favor, Jerry.
Well, what I'm getting at is they have heavy duty equipment still parked there. It might be close to the line, but they had a big front end loader or whatever the heck it is, but it is there. And I think we need to get the C&D in place as a 200-foot area, which really gives them very limited use of that totally denuded about a half an acre.
They won't get to know where the 200-foot area is, Jerry, until they actually go out and flag the bank of Unquity Brook.
So how is the C&D going to be worded then? And because I have every intention of popping in there from time to time, and I would like to know what the 200-foot is.
Well, we'll know as soon as it gets delineated and surveyed in and put on a plan.
Well,
that may be not for another month or two.
Is it, so it's, is it appropriate that in issuing the C and D, that they take immediate steps to at least approximate the 200-foot buffer zone?
Yes, that's certainly appropriate. And I estimated it for Nick Parnell on the phone the other day, and I thought it might be on the south side of where those large piles are, right about where the brush stops. Okay, the extent of the brush piles on the south side of those big piles.
But Steve, we had cars parked there, and I remember you saying that when we were there, some of the cars that were parked there were approximately within the 200-foot buffer zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cars that were parked on the north side, yes.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. That, again, that's an approximate, WAG, as we call it in science.
Steve, let me ask a question about the delineation. I recognize the fact that they will plant the flags at the resource area line.
Yes.
And then they can survey in the 100-foot mark and the 200-foot mark. Is it possible to put flags at the 200-foot mark? So if we were to take a site visit, we would know where it is?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think, Jerry, that would be very helpful to those of us that just, observing. So you know where the line is.
But that's exactly what I'm getting at. And how does that play into the fact that the C and D has not already been sent is a little bit frustrating to me, but that's if it's going to be done, John, who needs to take charge of that?
Kathy will get it done. I talked to her yesterday.
So it still hasn't been done?
Well, it wasn't done yesterday at whatever, noontime.
Okay.
Right.
And it will include, a request that they, as soon as
no further activity within the 200-foot mark,
and to put the flags down as soon as possible.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Shall we go on?
Yes.
Just two other items that I have. 1040 Hillside Street, the redo of the sewage pump station has started and is probably half done by now. They are staying inside the limit of work, but I must inform you that they have two humongous machines on that site. And we asked them to take the machines off the site every night, but they're not doing that because of logistics. I just wanted to report that to you. Okay.
Have you asked for a spill plan?
Have I asked for a spill plan? I have not.
Yeah, I agree, Hans. That I understand that sometimes those things are so big that they can't be moved. But we did have that specific discussion when we issued the order of conditions.
We did.
And they've got to acknowledge it. If they're not going to do it, they should have come to us. But there has to be a spill plan of some kind.
Yes, actually, it should have been the town engineer that should have come to us and let us know. But in any case, I will say that they have a dirt bag out there. That's a large, looks like a big garbage bag that they pump the dewatering water into, and the water that was coming out was completely clear. I've seen it twice in the past week, and it was clear both times. Just FYI. Okay.
Clear coming out? You mean coming out of the bag or coming?
That's right. Coming out of the bag into a catch basin. That's right.
Good.
Okay, and that's what it's for, is to collect some particulates if there's any particulates in the dewatering water. Let's see. The third thing is I was asked by Anna Meyer just 5 o'clock today if I would do some delineation for a grant application to Mass Coastal Zone Management evidently at the Pleasant Street, Center Street intersection somewhere. they would like to build a basin of some sort there.
Who does?
I'm sorry.
This is a grant application that the town is doing to coastal zone management for sediments, I would imagine, sediment load.
Well, I called in today, or maybe it was yesterday, that right at that intersection, there are some huge trees down. And two of them, and it's not the entire tree, but they're very, very large branches. I mean, they're huge, that have crossed the brook. And this is right, Jerry, right near your house.
That's what I asked. Center in what?
Pleasant Street, right where Adams Street.
Oh, sure. I know exactly where it is. Yeah.
It's between the intersection and Chesterfield Road.
I was walking by there just the other day.
If you've been there since the last windstorm, there are huge trees down that cross the brook. You could walk across on the trees are that big. You could walk on them. Wow. And then there's a huge dead tree, and I think it's town land. So I had called Kathy and asked her to ask the DPW to get down and take a look, because I think it's town property.
I thought if a tree falls in an area like that, it's supposed to be left there.
Well, no, not to cross the brook, because you don't want it clogging the brook. It's actually above the brook right now.
Okay.
and that's all I have.
All right, but I don't know what the grant is or why CCM would be involved in it.
Well, the money would be coming from CCM to the town. That's what it is. Yeah, which is great.
And is that a CPR grant?
No, it's a CCM grant, and I'm not sure. I only heard about it just a couple hours ago, so I'll have some more information, and I'll make a date with her. And in fact, she and the town engineer and myself will go on site at some time in the next couple of weeks. Okay. And I'll let you know what goes on and more detail about the grant. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Good. Yes.
Is that it?
Anything else from anybody?
Not for me. All right. Thanks. And I'll ask Kathy to see if she can speed up the process with Keolis and get that RDA. And then she can just send out an email as to when and how you can sign it. It may be you just go up. I've done it in the past, Jerry. I know you have as well. You just go up and she'll leave it in the outdoor mailbox, and you just sign it and leave it there. They're not supposed to let people into the DPW office.
Right.
All right, we're good. Have you heard anything back from Brian Levy or anything on our negative denial of the notice of intent?
Not a word, John.
Okay.
Not a word.
But I assume that was filed in a timely fashion. I hope it was.
Yes, I believe so. But I don't have a copy.
Okay. I'll call Kathy tomorrow and see if she can send a copy around.
Just for clarification, what's the process for DEP with that? Are we going to be provided an opportunity to meet with them about that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's the simple answer. They generally ask if we have comments on appeal.
Okay.
So I'm sure they will.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And I did write an extra couple of paragraphs, Hans, about what was missing. That is, we checked off the box that said they gave us insufficient evidence to support their application, and then I wrote a few paragraphs about what they failed to provide to us.
Okay.
So that accompanied the denial, and that would go before DEP. So they know essentially what happened, but it's a big file because it's been around for so many years.
And DEP, I just went to a DEP site visit a week and a half ago in Billerica. That took about 4 months to come through DEP, the appeal. Wow. Just to let you know what the timetable is, at least in the Northeast region.
All right, fair enough.
Yep.
All right, I think that's it, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, so we'll see everybody on the 24th. Is there a motion to adjourn? Somebody?
Come on,
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.